9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. Liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Roger, Tower.
Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. It's Saturday, November 16th, 2024. I'm Doug. This is Matt, and joining us today, Gemma Jade.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oracle reader, spiritual advisor to the lost and curious, and also best-selling author, which we're going to talk about some of your work. What do you got that's new, Gemma? You have something that just came out, right?
That's just about to come out. Actually,
Okay.
it was supposed to have come out, but I missed my deadline. But it is actually Gone: Mysterious Disappearances Volume 4. It's fourth in a series that I'm doing about mysterious disappearances, not just in the woods, though. I know a lot of people are talking a lot about mysterious disappearances in the woods. There are some of those cases. So these are real cases of people who mysteriously vanished. And there's really no rhyme or reason to where they could have ended up or where they went or what happened to them. But the one thing I feel like I'm doing that nobody else has done yet is I'm having an honest conversation about the supernatural, extraterrestrial, paranormal elements that could have went into a lot of these disappearances. I feel like a lot of authors and writers and investigators are just afraid to maybe offend the family, putting a paranormal twist, quote unquote, on the disappearance of their loved ones. But for me, I feel like it's more offensive to try to hide what might have actually happened. You know, living in this world, being a medium, seeing spirit, and everything that I know, I really believe in 98% of these cases that I put in these books, there is something other going on. You know, whether it's a cryptid, like I said, an ET, portals, accidental portal jumping, all types of things. And I feel like it's time we've had the honest conversations about that without worrying so much about offending anyone.
A lot of times there are mysteries too behind it, right? I mean, it's not just somebody just disappears and there's like nothing left. There's some kind of
600,000 people a year disappear in the U.S.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
That's a lot.
I mean, most of them come back or whatever, or are found. But there's 1% to 2% that are never found. 4,500 unidentified bodies a year turn up. What is going on, Gemma?
We want answers.
We want some answers.
In the books, though, I really will say I'm trying to give those answers. I go through the whole case as factually as possible. I do a lot of research into the cases. If there's even a chance someone was abducted or just got lost or something like that, I won't put it in the book because I really want people to understand that it's happening a lot more often than the average person thinks. Yeah. That people are going through portals. Now, when I say this is where I usually lose people, but this is the Alien Probe podcast. So I'm gonna put it out there. Some information I got when I was channeling right before I started writing these books is one of the reasons I actually started was from an extraterrestrial race that was talking to me about New Earth. And I never really believed in like any kind of new earth theories. Like I don't get into that stuff. But what I was told is we know there's all different dimensions. Even scientists have said there's many dimensions beyond this one. We don't know much about them, but they're there. So it makes sense that beings that are more scientifically advanced, technologically advanced, have found ways to come and go. What they're doing, this extraterrestrial race, is they are pulling people from mainly our woodlands. This is where like the disappearance in the woods come in. Not to say that every disappearance in the woods is this, but a lot of them are. And once the person goes through, obviously there's some confusion, and they're basically told, this is where you are now. so you can assimilate and go with the program, or you can be sent back to where you were, but you will be deceased once you get there.
Oh,
You can't go back through the portal. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know the intention behind it. I don't know why they're choosing who they're choosing. And I think a lot of it too, a lot of it is people accidentally walking through portals, not paying attention.
right.
What do they look like? It's like a hole or what? I mean, it's just,
So
it's
they don't look
interesting.
like, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I've heard people describe them as
Right.
like a big shimmery,
Yep.
just thing in the woods.
Yep.
And I guess they could look like that. But I've also heard more often that people will say that all of a sudden they're walking along and there's just everything's blurry beyond a certain point.
Yeah, like water
Yes,
or
like
something. Yep.
yeah, or like when you see heat, like how you can actually
Yeah.
see the heat sometimes,
Yep.
that like that.
Yep.
And one man actually said he put his leg through where the blur was just to see like what is that, thinking he had no clue what it could be, and his leg literally disappeared. So he pulled it back quick and ran. I think a lot of people are like talking to somebody, the other person turns and they're just like, yeah, 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 and they're gone mid sentence, literally, because they weren't paying attention and they crossed through. I don't mean to laugh, but it's just
No,
comical to me in my head
Yeah.
to imagine. It sounds insane.
well, something's happening with this amount of, something's happening with this many people disappearing. There's the, with the UAP phenomenon, to talk of an an interdimensional thing where there's multi-dimensionals.
Yeah.
And the portal's going between those, which is bizarre, but people are going somewhere. I mean, we just talked about the new borders the new borders are Tom, what's his guy's name? Tom Holm or something. And Holman, yeah, and he, thank you. And he was saying that like 300,000 children go missing, or are missed, not every year, but 300 children are missing. And one of the things that they're going to be focusing, we're talking about human trafficking and some horrible type things like that, but not all of them are that. Where the hell are they going?
And that's the thing. I cover a lot, unfortunately, in these books, in the fourth one included. There are a lot of small children, and I'll give you a case of, there was one young boy. He was maybe like 4 or 5 years old. It happened in the early 1900s. I would say like the 1920s, I believe 1930s. And this little boy had a brand new red bicycle. He went camping with his family, and the mother went to like wring out some clothes. She was about 10 feet away, and the father was going to like the town that was near. There was one road in, and that road was the same road out. So the father was going to town to pick up supplies and stuff. They were going to be there. Extended family were in tents all around in campers. It was just like 20 people in this one family in this camp. And this little boy, his brothers and sisters and cousins and everybody went to go play. He wanted to go with his dad. And his dad said, no, you can't come with me. I just want to go real quick, ride your tricycles. One of those red tricycles with the three wheels, I think from like way back in the day.
Radio flyer.
Awesome.
Actually, I think I was wrong about the date. It was actually like the 70s. And yes, one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid said to his mom, I want to go with dad. And, they said no. The father pulls out, he gets in his pickup truck, he starts driving away. And the kid, he's 4 or 5 years old. He's thinking he's going to catch up with his dad. So he gets on his little tricycle and he's pedaling and pedaling. Then, he kind of gives it up. He gets bored with it. And then all of a sudden, witnesses later said they saw him pedaling really fast and he stopped and like looked over into the woods. And one of them said they heard him speaking. The other one said they didn't hear that. But the next thing we knew, or they knew, was that the kid was gone. Gone. And the mother was, at this whole time, was only 10 feet away.
Oh, wow.
So later on, they found his tricycle in a garbage pile, in like the camp's garbage pile, but it was sitting straight up as though someone had like placed it there. But there was no way for the boy to have been abducted because it was one road in and one road out, and they were parked right at the end of the road. So anyone that would have came in would have noticed.
Seen them, yeah.
They would have seen them. They went around to all the other camps. The kid's never been seen again. And people are like, I wonder what he was chasing, And I'm just like, no, I wonder what he was running from.
Yeah.
I feel like he was trying to get away from something. And then something lured him. And when I was around that age, my father took me up to Garrett Mountain. I'm from Paterson, New Jersey. It's a big, used to be a big castle up there, and you overlook the city. And I remember being lured into the woods by a fey creature, and I was gone for like 10 minutes playing with this quote unquote little kid. And when I came back, it was dark and my dad was crying and the cops were there and I'd been missing for 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
Time dilation.
My God.
Interesting.
That's why that kid's story particularly stuck out to me. If he was really looking in the woods and speaking and then taking off like a bat out of hell, I believe something was trying to lure him and it did eventually get him.
Wow.
What that something is, I don't know.
That's insane.
So many things. So many things. So tell us about your. Tell us. I don't know. You don't want to talk too much in detail about the books, but what do we got? What can we expect with the new release?
So with the new release, I covered some cases that I don't think a lot of people would put with the quote unquote mysterious disappearances label. You know, Magdalena Juk, you know, she jumped out a window and offed herself, but the events leading up to that were very suspicious to me and a little bit paranormal. I was wondering if she was overtaken. That one was a rough one for me. I making the connections, and then I also inadvertently in this book found two cases, one where someone went missing and like 30 something days another person went missing under the same circumstances in like the same area. I had never seen anyone put that together before, but in my research I just happened to read about those two cases at the, you know, basically the same time. There's a lot of new cases I don't think a lot of people are aware of. It's not the same old cases you're going to see on YouTube. Like book 1 and book 2, obviously I think they were great books. I did a lot of work and research into them, but there were a lot of cases that everyone's probably heard of. I had to dig a lot deeper for volume 4 because I've already done 3 volumes.
Right.
So each book has like 20 something cases in it. So a lot of cases that people are going to be like, oh my gosh, how have I never heard of this? I mean,
Right.
and that's the thing too, nobody knows that this is going on. I mean, it's talked about a little bit with the missing 411 stuff, but now that that whole thing has died down, people aren't having these conversations. Again, I think they're scared of like offending, but if I were a family member, I would want to know. Like Dior Coons, I know his parents were shady AF, but he did not have anything to do with that little boy's disappearance. I believe he was either lured or he walked into a portal.
Most
And
state par-
he's in first book.
most state parks hide the fact that people
Yes, they
disappear
do.
from there or have been murdered or something from there because it takes away from
Tourism.
tourists. Right, exactly. So I think a lot of people have no clue what goes on. That these things happen in these parks, and that state parks not telling nobody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't remember which book I had written the last time I was on your show, but I did about a year ago come out with Danger at Your Door, Encounters with Black-Eyed Kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got that one.
And yeah, and that's like my best-selling book so far out of like 10 or 11 that I have out. And that book I put so much research into. Each chapter was a different theory
Yeah.
about what they could be, because honestly I have no idea. I've never had an encounter, thank goodness, but when I do encounter entities, I take one look at them and I know what they are.
Right.
So I'm wondering, like, would I want to encounter one so I can maybe like figure out the secret? But people were so enamored with the encounters that I was like, all right, I'm going to cash in on this.
Yeah.
And I went and looked up a bunch of encounters and I put out Midnight Visitors as a companion book.
Yep.
So it's about the Black-Eyed Kids, but it's just encounters. That, the Black-Eyed Kids are something that like everyone is interested in the minute they hear about them.
That was a great book.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You don't want to let them in your house, right? I mean, we should tell everybody.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to let them in your car. What's the deal with what is it? Just so we can.
You
don't have to
don't you don't want to invite them into your personal space. And I said even in the book that my biggest fear is not me, it's my
kids.
Friendly to everybody husband who would be like, oh my gosh, there are kids outside, before even like looking.
It's like, come
right?
on in.
Yeah, come on in. The good thing is they usually come when you're alone, right? So if he did that, he's on his own.
Yeah.
But since writing that book, I have actually changed my theory on them. So I am going to write another book about them. My theory now is that they don't actually need entry. I believe the whole invite us in and all of that is to ramp up our fear energy because that's what they feed off. They feed off of terror. They feed off of fear. They need human terror and fear to live. When we are terrified, it's the lowest vibration that we can have, and it's also the most energy we emit at one time. Anger, terror, and sexual energy, right? So they feed off these very, very high, very, very low emotions. I don't think the point is getting in. I think the point is ramping up as much terror as possible, because you never hear of anyone who let them in. There was one story that was somewhat believable. The rest of them were like, yeah, I told them to come in, and then I looked them right in the eyes and I said, I know what you are. Cut the crap. And then the black-eyed kid transformed into a mantis being. Like, these are the kinds of stories we're getting about people who let them in, you know?
Right.
I'm not letting that in if I see it.
No,
I think spirits
whether
do.
that's the point or
You
not,
know,
they're not getting in my house.
they're
No.
not getting. Yeah,
Spirits
not
do
coming in.
ramp up when you fear them. Because so the new house I moved into after the split, it's got a spirit in there. I was told it does. I can feel it. It doesn't seem scary, but a few times I'll walk in and it's always dark, and it kind of catches me off guard because I'll hear something or I just can feel something in there, and I get kind of nervous, and that's when it seems to ramp up more. If I'm already in the house
Because you're, yeah,
and I'm doing laundry and stuff, I'm calm. I know it's there. Again, it's not. It doesn't feel scary. It doesn't feel intimidating. But once it catches me off guard and I get kind of scared and a little nervous, that's when it kind of ramps up. So I agree
because
with you.
it's using your energy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like being a medium. Most mediums say like we don't live very long unless we really know how to be careful with what we're doing. Because even if I have like some cool dead people hanging around, some of them do. They're like, "What's this with Netflix?" And like they're just curious souls, right? They're
Right.
just doing their thing, and that's cool. Except they literally need my living energy
Yeah.
in order to appear and to speak to me, and so they're constantly taking. So if you don't know how to put that back, your health is really going to suffer. I know,
Right.
like Amy Allen doing the Dead Files said she constantly needed a blood transfusion. She stopped doing the show because eventually she just got to the point where she was so physically ill with all kinds of diseases and things. And that's not an accident. It's what happens when you're constantly surrounded by energetic feeders and takers. This is why people with attachments, like addicts, most addicts have demonic or very low vibration attachments. This is what happens. Your body shuts down. As human beings, we're not supposed to have these interactions. So
Right.
for a spirit to be feeding off your energy and ramping up like that, that's because you basically just fed it a 6-course meal and it's ready
Right.
to go. You gave it a couple Red Bulls, basically.
Right. Oh wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the black eyed kid is very compelling. I don't. It's kind of
Mm,
scary. I don't really
I'm
want to.
terrified.
Yeah, it's not really something that we did. I did a show with my wife, and we came across somebody gave that to me. I had no idea that was a thing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I've
and as
heard
I
of it.
read through it, I got kind of creeped out by the whole thing. I'm like, oh my god, this is really. There's stories about them getting in your car. Don't let them in your car, and that kind of thing. It's so then you had a
I'm
book.
not afraid of much, but I'm terrified of
The black
I
eyed
really
kid.
am, because I don't know what they are. I can't
Right.
figure it out. I go
Yeah.
from thinking they're interdimensionals to then being like, no, they've got to be cast off ETs, like hybrids gone wrong. Then I'm like, well, they could have something to do with the MIB, because the MIB and the WIB, the women in black, have been seen picking them up from time to time.
Oh wow.
There have been a lot of cases where people have looked out the window to see where they've gone, and there have been men and or women in black in those flashy 1950s black cars
Cars and they're going
picking
in.
these kids up.
Oh wow.
So many creepy
That
things.
Crazy.
just made it worse. That just made
Yeah, because
leveled it
what
up.
is could the connection possibly be there? I've also come across people who have had they've had encounters with people who they believe were like handlers, because they would go and like stay at these Airbnbs and stuff, and they're seeing BEK all over the place. So it's like, is the person in charge, who is of course super creepy and weird, handling the BEK? Like, did ET say like, we'll give you this or pay you this or
Hmm.
whatever to oversee these bastard children, the hybrids that like they went wrong somehow, right?
Yeah.
Their programming is off or something. So it's fascinating on a professional level
Hmm.
that I want to know everything I can. but it is terrifying on a personal level where like, don't come near my home. Now, luckily I know how to protect my entire property. I do like the little spell jars and I make homemade witch salt and like all that stuff. So nothing's getting on my property, but
That's awesome.
man, if they're ETs, that stuff is not going to work. It doesn't work for extraterrestrials. It works for spirits and energies, entities.
Yeah, you kind of touched on something too that I think they're all interconnected as well. We talked about this at the last MUFON meeting, how it, ET, paranormal, even Bigfoot, all of this is interconnected. And you obviously have heard some stories how it has been interconnected with, with the MIB and the black-eyed kids. So I love that. That's kind of covers all of that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and I think the government kind of knows something about what's going on with this. I don't
The
think it's as
U.S.
much
government
as,
absolutely knows. Not to cut you off, like we said in
No,
the
that's fine.
beginning, I don't do that. Sorry, but like I get a thought and I will immediately forget it.
That's fine.
I have 5 sons. Okay, but for me, I do believe in the so-called Eisenhower conspiracy, where he traded abductions for electronics technological
Right.
advances.
Yep.
If you look from the time he was in office, and I don't know the exact dates, I believe it was the 50s,
Yep.
at our technological advances since then, and then for centuries before then.
Yep.
Dude, we only like 2 years ago upgraded our toothbrushes.
Right.
How are we having all this incredible, amazing technology? But I do think, and I am an American Horror Story fan, I did watch the episodes where Eisenhower did this whole trade. They kind of redid the whole thing in a really scary way, where the ETs were like, well, what are you going to do if we take more than people than we agree?
Nothing.
Seriously.
There's nothing you're going to do.
And if you don't agree to this, well, I'm sure Russia would really love, because you know how scared the whole Russia thing was back then. I mean, I was born in 83, but I learned it, I know about it. And I think that was the threat. Well, you can do this, because I think for some reason they needed permission back then, and maybe they came to us because we were a very powerful nation. People are always like, well, if there are ETs, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Well, I'm sorry to tell you that the president isn't the king of the world. Why would they land on the White House lawn? That doesn't even make sense to me. That's like people are like, could you imagine a world where heroin was legal? Like, yes, I imagine people walking into a store and saying, hi, can I have 2 $10 bags of heroin? Thank you. Have a nice day. Like that is, I guess I just see things differently, right? I just don't want to catastrophize everything or paranormalize, if that's a word, everything. I want the facts. I want the evidence, but sometimes it's not there. So I have to go by gut, right? And that makes perfect sense to me. Look at how advanced technology has been since then. And look at how many abductions and disappearances and sightings since then. Crazy.
I don't know. How many different extraterrestrial species do you think there is? Do you think there's some? Do you have any? You don't really know for sure. What do you think?
I think there is an unlimited amount. I believe we know about less than 1%. One time I was taken, it was Mother's Day, like 2 or 3 years ago. And again, this is where I lose people, to the Galactic Federation, and there was a bird entity there. It was a bird. I guess a Therian is what it would be called. And I remember them scanning me. This was in a dream state or traveled astrally. I do that by accident. I never do that on purpose anymore, after I accidentally went to a military base and almost got killed by astral projecting. Yeah, I'll tell you guys that story. But so I remember asking, like, what are you doing? And he was scanning me to make sure I didn't have any diseases, because our diseases could literally kill them. At that point in time, I must have seen 1,500 different types. I mean, I don't think we even have any idea, because if you think about an infinite amount of universes, an infinite amount of galaxies, and an infinite amount of dimensions beyond those. So what are we talking about here? Do you know how many Earths there are with humans just like us? An infinite amount. That doesn't mean there's a different us on every dimension like most people think, but I just think it's plausible that there would be, right? Because there's only so many different mixes of DNA. So I do think there's another Matt, another Doug, many others.
That's scary.
That's scary.
Think about it. Each choice you make was a choice.
Yeah,
So
right.
what if you had made the opposite?
Exactly.
Then you would be faced with different choices.
Yep.
And what if you had made that? So you can just literally sit forever. I mean, there's another Gemma out there somewhere who, didn't have a baby at 16 and went to Hollywood and became famous. And there's
Right.
another one that got into the wrong car, because
Yep.
I was
No.
big on jumping into guys' cars. I don't care. I need a
Yep.
ride. I don't care. Give
Many
me a
different
ride,
timelines, right?
I am.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's all different ones.
I grew up in the 70s. There's a lot of girls that jumped in cars.
Yeah, I think that's something. The 80s
It's not
too.
something new.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
Yeah,
People still
I'm
do it.
like I said, I'm from Patterson. Just give me a ride and shut up. I
Right,
don't want to hear all about that. I don't need your life story. I've got $10, But like seriously, like I'm sure I've gotten into cars with people, even taxis before Uber existed, where the vibe was just like,
Dark.
I had one guy, he kept looking in the rear view mirror and telling me, "You're so beautiful."
Creeper.
The first time I was like, "Oh, thank you.
Right.
That's so nice." But then it was like cold, dead stare.
Oh no.
And just like share a ride. So Ghost Dragon
Yeah,
CW, every time I get into or out of an Uber, he gets an alert.
That's
He wanted
good.
me yeah, I had
Yeah.
to. After that guy, I had to.
Yeah.
I've got 3 boys. I'm really happy I didn't have any girls. I'd be scared to death about
No,
stuff.
you're not. You're
You know
not
what I mean?
wrong. I've got 3 grown adult sons, and I've got my little guy, and I have 4 grown adult sons. I don't know why I always say 3. I think I forget about my 18-year-old all the time. Sorry, AJ.
I have my oldest son. I try to forget about him.
Oh shit!
My oldest is still my baby, my 25-year-old.
Nice.
I cried one time in front of him and didn't even mean to, and he was like, "That's it, I'm not going anywhere."
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, "My dad, I'm a mama's boy." And he's like 200 and some odd pounds, like he's just like a giant teddy bear of a kid.
My oldest is 25 too.
Really, being
Yep.
a boy mom's amazing. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
And they kind of like, even if they think the things I'm saying sometimes are really out there, they kind of like
That's okay.
Yeah.
go along with
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure they forewarn people beforehand. Like, by the way, my mom reads Oracle. She's really into crystals, and she's a witch. So my oldest son's girlfriend, who I hope he's eventually going to marry, has been with her for years. She's into crystals. She's into Oracle.
Nice.
She and I have actually shown up wearing the same clothes twice. So like, yeah, the marrying a mother thing, I think is a little bit true, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I got 3 boys. 2 of them kind of support what we do here. The other one thinks I'm batshit crazy. So
Well,
can't
that's
have
the
the
thing,
support of everybody.
My sons that have ability support me more than my sons that don't.
Right.
3 of them, but I don't bring the little guy into it yet. He's very young. So out of my adult sons, 2 of them have some of my ability, and 2 of them don't.
Yeah.
So the 2 that don't are, of course, a lot more, standoffish with what I do. Supportive, but don't necessarily know if they believe or not. But my oldest and my third born, they have the ability and they understand it. They understand what it can do to you, and how it feels to walk into a restaurant and just know everyone's business off the bat. That's uncomfortable. People are like, "That would be so cool." No, it's not. Like, I don't need to know the fry cook beats his wife.
Right.
I don't need to know that
Right.
the couple sitting behind me, they're married to other people and they're cheating right now. Like, you don't need to know all that
That's right.
stuff, because there's nothing I can do with the information except now I know this about this J.O.,
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse, but at times I'm sure it's more of a curse than anything.
It used to be, it really used to be until YouTube. YouTube kind of saved me with that, because I found a community of like-minded people who, even if they didn't have ability, were willing to bet on me.
Yeah.
Were willing to give me a chance. I have never, in the 4.5 years I've been reading Oracle specifically on YouTube, I have never had anyone, never, and I do it weekly and personally, come to me and say I was wrong. I had one person say, I don't know what you're talking about. This is a sham. And 2 weeks later, they messaged me and said, "I'm so sorry.
Yep.
I said that everything you said happened."
That's right.
And I'm like, it's not me. I'm just a messenger, but I do appreciate the validation. You're so great with that, Matt, because every time you're always like, "You're right on point, and this is how." And people don't understand. I don't ask for the validation because like I want to feel good. I want to know that I'm connecting properly. I want to
Right.
know that because if I'm ever off, I need to fix something. Something went wrong.
You're
You know?
amazing. I need to.
Thank
I
you.
need to. I will attest that she is really good. If you haven't, if you've never done it before, you're really good to go to. And you're really good. You're really in tune with it.
How does everybody
Doug,
get
I'm
on?
gonna have to read for you. I'm gonna read for you, Doug.
Oh,
Yeah, no, if you give me permission, I can do it. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
just do it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah? All right, cool.
Absolutely.
He's seen the ones you've done for me.
Yeah,
so
I've
he
seen. I
knows.
watched the ones you do for Matt.
Yeah.
Nice.
We,
I'm gonna give you one. You need one.
Yeah, we. Is it possible that you're a hybrid? I'm just gonna put that out there. What do you think?
I've always wondered about that. I have recently, I would say recently in the past couple of years, come to remember something's different. Uh, these little convulsions I would go into as a kid when my fever would spike. I just remember my dad comforting me and soothing me in the 80s. I guess you didn't take your kids to the hospital when they had seizures. I don't know. But I think I just had them so often. The doctor was like, it's just her fever. You don't have to rush her here. This is what you have to do. Recently, I've come to these memories that while he and I were thinking he was just cooling my body down with ice water, I was being taken. I don't have the full memories yet. My whole life I spent being afraid of ETs, terrified, wouldn't even watch Star Wars, which is now my favorite. And I never knew why. So I do wonder if it's ET or if it's Fae. I always thought it was Fae blood that I was that was doing this for me. And I do still think that's true, but I also wonder, is there an ET connection? Because if I think hard enough, I don't need the C5 app. Like if I think hard enough, they'll just come. I try not to because I'm still very afraid of it and I'm not sure I want to know. But there's a good chance. Yeah, there's a good chance a lot of us are. Everyone is born with the abilities I have to one degree or another. Every single human being is born with recall. Every single human being is born with this. The problem is the conditioning. There's no monsters under your bed. Go back to sleep. Look, there's nothing under there. If I don't see anything as an adult, it's not there. And that is the wrong approach. You know, we have to remember children are much closer to the other side. That's where they come from. So a 2-year-old was on the other side 2 years ago.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? People with dementia, they are just 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the other side. So do I think I'm a hybrid? I think it is very, very possible, particularly the way I look. Again, I'm not tooting my own horn. It's been more of a curse than anything else, but I've always been complimented the way I look. I've gotten a lot of things because of the way I look. I wonder if that's kind of part of my charm, I guess, why I've always been able to just pull people in that way. You know what I'm saying?
Anybody ever asked you if you were a hybrid before?
No, nobody's ever asked.
Just Doug.
But I'm sure so many people wanted to know.
I could edit that out if you like.
No, I'm not offended by it. I love that you asked it.
I think she
bother me
is.
at all.
I think she is.
Because it's a real possibility.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I want to keep it real. I want to be honest about these things, even when it concerns me. That would be awesome. I would love to find out. Like, even if they were like, you can't ever say anything, I wouldn't say anything, but like, I would like to know, you know, why am I still able to recall all of this? But yet the one thing I wish I could do, past life regressions and seeing people's past lives, I can only do every once in a while by accident. You know what I mean? Like, that's the ability I want that I don't have. And then people who can do that are like, no, I want to be able to do what you do and read energy. Like, it's never enough, right?
I don't want to know what other people are thinking.
Never happy.
I'm perfectly ignorant. I don't care. It's fine.
Lucky I learned how to shut it off.
I know.
It was overwhelming.
Oh, you'd be crazy. It would drive you nuts.
And then people are like, oh, well, if you know what I'm thinking, what color underwear am I wearing? And I think people don't get that it's energetic. It's not really, can hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the energy, and your energy is of someone who cheats on his wife, or your energy is of somebody who's doing something they're not supposed to be doing. Your energy is that you're a liar. Your energy is that you're amazing and telling the truth. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I know how to be drawn to people. I used to completely ignore that, which is how I see people's like inner light, right?
Yep.
So I finally have come to the understanding that just because I see that light and it's there, doesn't mean that person is working with it in this lifetime. because I've ended up in horrible relationships, and people are like, knowing the stuff you know, how does that even happen to you? You should see them a mile
You
away.
should have
I
known.
do. Yeah, I do.
She's
But
still
I do it
sus-
anyway.
She's still susceptible to it,
I'm
being
a-
human.
I see the light and
Yeah.
I think, oh my gosh, that beautiful bright light, not even thinking, which now going forward,
It's
I
a train.
will, of course, not even thinking they're not working with it. They have
Right.
no idea it's even there.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that finally dawned on me like 4 years ago when I was 38. I was like, oh, that's what's going on. Okay.
I'm addicted to chaos.
Future
I don't
me.
know. I don't know what's going on here. Have you ever had a negative thing happen on a reading when you're doing a reading for someone?
I have the most negative thing that comes up, and it's happened 3 times, is knowing someone's going to die. Either there's going to be a death or somebody that I'm reading for is going to die. And that's a lot of the reason I do the readings remotely, so that I can, if something like that does come up, I can say, well, this is hard to talk about, but it might be this, but more than likely it could be this. So I'm giving them options. If I'm looking at someone that's about to die, I see like the death face. So there would be like, the more flies that there are is the quicker they're going to go. Then I can't give them an option. I have to come right out and tell them, you don't have very long. I'm not a doctor. I don't want to do that. So I've absolutely had it happen. The first 2 times it happened, I said, I'm not giving them this reading. I'm not giving it to them. And I delayed, and then I redid the reading and just left that part out. And then when they ended up passing away, and I would see the suffering of my client or my other friends because of the passing, I was like, wow, I can't do that. Like, I was given this gift to give messages as is. I can't sugarcoat and I can't leave things out, because maybe I shouldn't have told her in particular, but I could have told her husband. It's just a bad
Yeah,
situation
that's
to
that.
be in.
Yeah.
I don't really like reading for sick people. If I know like they have cancer or something, I might tell them it's not the best time to get a reading. But at the same time, now I've come out with it, and I tell them, you're sick, and I've actually caught things for people where I'm like, I don't know what this is. You need to go to the doctor like immediately. I'm not a medical professional, but there is something wrong here. And one person was like, had a brain tumor. Another person had like, if they didn't catch whatever it was, they would have ended up with like cancer or something.
Oh
Like,
wow.
that's happened a lot of times where I've told people, and it's like, oh, I had pain there. So you needed an oracle to come and tell you to go to the doctor? I mean, some people really do.
Right. Yeah.
I've had pain there for years. Well, it's a brain tumor. Like,
Get it
but
checked
I'm
out.
glad I was able to intervene,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
did go, and it ended up being okay. A lot of the times, physical disease is spiritual dis-ease.
Right.
And that's
No.
not to negate disease. Cancer exists, all it exists, but a lot of the times it's a secondary symptom for what we're dealing with spiritually. And 98% of the time there, you have some kind of attachment that is feeding, feeding, feeding. You are completely unaware. I can see it. And that's one of the main things that I enjoy about my job, is getting to work with people to remove those attachments, get them spiritually aligned so that they're not physically sick anymore. Unfortunately, I can't do it for myself and haven't yet found anyone willing to help me do it,
Right.
who can.
Right.
Not many people can see attachments. If I look at people, if I'm not shut down, which I have to do before I leave my house, I'll look at people and I'll see like something will pop out of like the back shoulder, or something will come out of like the stomach, and kind of look at me and pop back in. These are actual entities, and they're not demons. You're not possessed, but they do compel you to like be miserable, make poor choices. You know, it's hard to explain. And I only know of one other person who can actually do it. And she wrote a book claiming she's the only person in the world who can do it. So, whatever. I don't need the recognition for that. I don't need
Wow.
millions of people coming to me and being like, what do I have? I have little nicknames for them. I call one a Clyde and the other a Bonnie, because they just attack, and they look differently. It's weird to see the world through my eyes, right? So I really like to shut it down a lot of the time and just see the world regularly. Um, but when you can see, like, it's as if sometimes you're looking through really dark sunglasses. If there's a lot of trauma in an area, like if a lot of people are having trauma, like our country specifically has been experiencing for a while, it almost is like every time I step outside, I'm wearing dark glasses. And when it's a good day and there's not too much negativity happening, not too much trauma, then I might be able to see the sun clearly. It's not easy, but with finding YouTube and you guys in this community, I feel accepted,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm at the very least understood. And for me, that's enough. I don't need you to understand or even believe every single thing I say. The fact that you're willing to listen with an open mind,
Yeah.
that's what matters to me.
That's
Hell
what we.
yeah.
Well, that's what we do. I don't
Cheers.
disrespect
Yeah.
anybody for whatever they believe or what abilities they think they have. I think there's a lot out there that we just don't understand, and that we're not going to know the answers for everything for a very
Not in
long
our
time.
lifetime,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not in this incarnation, I'll say.
Yeah.
What do you
Serious.
think? What do you think about regression therapy with the hypnotherapist thing? Have you done that
I
before?
think if I've never done it, I've always wanted to. It's really pricey.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I'm just kind of like getting my footing in what I do. And I don't like to charge a lot of money because I feel like it's a gift that was given to me. At the same time, I'm trying to make a career out of it. So I charge as little as possible. So I don't really make a lot of money with what I do to be able to even afford something like that. But if I ever could, it is one of the things I would love to do. But what I would caution people is to like really know who you're going to.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people like on TikTok and on YouTube. Um, One person claims that they're a remote viewer of cryptids, and they're not. This person is not, and I'm not going to call them out. It's not my business. They could just as easily say I'm a fake because I can't prove it. I just see it in their energy. They don't have ability, so they can't have that one, right? And they're charging tons of money to go out on these missions and investigations. But regression therapy, all that to say, I do believe in it, but I believe you really have to be careful with who you go to. Know who you're going to so you're not led. Make sure they don't have any kind of agenda. I think it could be really beneficial. Um, I remember speaking to like the Black Dahlia, and do you know that she's never lived a lifetime out of thousands of lifetimes past the age of 26 years old? She always ends up trying to make it famous or trying to be known in her community. And the same dude gets her every single lifetime.
Oh shit.
Oh wow.
They never changed this dynamic.
Right.
I believe what she said in like the next few incarnations, the dynamic is going to change so that she can live and experience a full life.
Right.
Because if you don't experience everything you're supposed to, even if you don't learn all the lessons, your soul can't progress.
Right.
So you have to be reincarnated into the same mind frame,
Yeah.
no soul progression, which means you haven't really learned anything spiritually, you haven't spiritually evolved, you haven't evolved humanly, and therefore you're going to make the same exact decisions. And that's why it's so important that while we're here, we grow through what we go through. We make sure that we learn the lesson in everything that bad or negative that happens to us so that we can move forward not only in this lifetime but our next lifetime. So for me, it's been terrible romantic relationships. I've like never had a good one, and I think that's been my lesson for a really long time. And in this lifetime, I finally learned so much about me and self-love that I think next incarnation I may actually, or maybe uh years down the line, who knows, I may actually be able to have a good romantic relationship. You've
Right.
got to learn those lessons. You absolutely have to know. You have to learn the role you played, the seeds you planted. And that's really hard for people that have been in abuse. Like I didn't ask that. No, definitely not saying abuse victims asked that. But what seed did you plant? What red flag did you ignore?
Yeah.
And things like that. It's not about blaming yourself or shaming yourself.
No.
It's just about saying, oh, now I know that not to do that next time so I can avoid it.
Heed the warnings. Exactly. Yeah.
You had a coworker. I witnessed the regression therapy. We recorded it, and he was abducted by NHI twice. Once he was on and it was fascinating because he was out, and the Norman Plotkin is the therapist, and he's just a few miles from us here. And he was in the first one. He was on a ship on an island. It was like an egg-shaped ship, and they went underwater, and the ship completely turned translucent. It was completely clear. You could see the fish, and he was on a table. He had him strapped to the typical table thing, but they didn't do anything bad to him. And it's and then he was in the Civil War, and he didn't do any. The therapist didn't do any leading question. It was great because
That's what, yeah.
No leading questions. He was phenomenal. I mean, I would recommend him to. I'm probably going to do
That's so
that
amazing.
by the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably going to go do it. Matt's going to have to witness it because I don't want my wife
You've
there.
got to let me know about that. Oh my,
Yeah.
that to me, ever since I was a little girl, I've been fascinated with past life regressions.
Yeah.
I learned about it watching Beverly Hills 90210 in the 90s. I was like 9. And Dylan was doing, and I was like,
No
what
way.
is this?
Really?
Yeah, I asked my
Dylan
spirit
did.
guide. I'm like, what
That's
is this?
hilarious.
Yeah, yep. I learned about it at 9 years old.
Oh shit.
I met a so-called medium recently who I was on an interview with people I thought were friends, and they brought this other medium on without telling me. I didn't know who this person was, and she kind of kept trying to get gotcha moments on me the entire stream. It was just horrible. But she kept saying like, "Well, I believe in the scientific. I'm a scientist. I believe in the scientific. There are no past lives." The first thing I like literally remember learning from my spirit guide is about past lives. And every medium I've spoken to, same thing. Your spirit guide, the first thing they talk to you about
Mm-hmm.
is past lives. If you're a medium who doesn't believe in past lives, I would really question whether I know what medium means or not, because
Yeah.
you know, we all have them, we all have many, and you know, we've all done many different things. I feel so drawn my whole life to California, like literally drawn there. Like when I see pictures, I cry. And Ireland. So I know I have connections to those two places. Never been there as Gemma, but I know I'm
Before.
connected. My dad is of Irish descent. He's 100% Irish. So I wonder, you know, if there's an ancestral connection there, obviously.
Yeah.
But I would love to. Everyone always told me I was born too late, right? They're like, Gemma, you were born way too late. The 60s would have loved you. I'm like, yeah, the 1860s. Like for as much as I love being on YouTube and being able to do this, I would give up electronics and everything else. I just would love to live in a simpler time. The 1960s, the 1860s, the 1760s. Like, I fall in love with those types of movies.
Yeah.
Like, I literally will watch them over and over again and like imagine myself there. I was told by several different people, and so many people, they hate when I say this. They're like, Americans always say that, that I was Anne Boleyn, which I never bothered looking into because I was so put off by the reaction to the people that I told. Like, oh my gosh, that's a fourth person to tell me that I might have been Anne Boleyn in a past life. They're like, oh yeah, Americans always say that. And then I was just like, okay, maybe I wasn't. So now I'm like embarrassed to say it.
Right.
Like,
You're
I
like,
wonder.
fuck.
I wonder, yeah, I wonder, like, is that true? You know, I've had 4 like mediums and sensitives just look at me and be like, "Oh my gosh, do you know who you were in the past life?" I'm like, why can't I do that? Like, I can look at you and tell you beat your wife, but I can't tell you what you did in.
Right. You're a Union soldier.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Past lives they just fascinate me.
If they weren't so expensive, I would
I know,
totally, right?
I know. We'll get there though, Matt. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I plan on being independently wealthy and famous within the next 10 years. So
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
I got you.
Awesome. Yeah, it was fascinating. I definitely am going to do that. Yeah, and the other thing was, he was in the Civil War, and I don't know. It's just pretty.
You've had your own, right? Weren't you?
I haven't done it. I haven't. Oh, well, I fell asleep. I listened to the. Okay, here's what happened. We recorded it. I recorded it on my phone. So when he was going through his his intro to get you into the intro was you walking down once he put you in the trance.
Yes.
You walk down stairs, these wide stairs with velvet carpet and very ornate, and then you go through these 2 large doors and you push the doors open and there's a huge library on the other side. And when you go in there, you find the book and these millions of books that has your name on it. So when he put him down, the gentleman, my coworker, couldn't find his book. So he had to bring him kind of out of it a little bit and kind of put him back down in. It was really fascinating the way he did it. But I was listening to it outside the game room here, and I was playing it while I was kind of watching TV, and then I turned the TV off and said, I'm just going to kind of listen to it in the dark. And I fell asleep. And when I went to sleep, I woke up in the probably the 1800s during the cowboy days. I'm looking down, I got chaps on, not assless chaps, Matt.
I wasn't thinking.
Sure.
I know what you're thinking. And a hat. I got this cowboy hat. I'm looking over. I'm looking at another guy, a black cowboy, and we're walking up. And it's got the rutted, the wagon rutted road, and we're walking up. And I'm looking at this guy, and we're just kind of walking up this. We're not talking or anything, but we're just kind of walking up this road. And then I kind of woke up, and I went, "Holy, what the hell?" And it was like real. So
I think you fell in.
You were put under.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah. It was crazy.
Because the specifics of that, right? And I'm sure it felt like more than a dream, right? A little bit.
It was like I was there. I don't dream like this. It was like I was there.
He said the sound.
Yeah, it was literally the sound, the smell, everything. So I talked to my coworker, went back and he did another regression, and then I talked to Norman, the hypnotherapist. And I told him about it. He goes, "Yeah, no extra charge."
Right? That is so cool. Wow. Oh my gosh. I tell you, the fact you even brought it up, it's the main thing that has fascinated me my whole life ever since I found out about it. Are you guys are not related, right? You're just very good friends.
Yep.
Because you guys have very I would say simpatico energy, where I wouldn't be surprised if one of you went under, you found the other in a past life.
I was saying.
Well, that's what happened with the gentleman I went with. Yeah. He when on the second therapy, he was in. They had the nights of
I don't know
with the Red Cross. Yeah, and he said he says and he was on the horse, and there was other knights there, and they had armor, but you could see the face. And he says, and he was explaining this, and you could rarely hear him. It's weird when you do it. I had to really listen because he was kind of talking really low. Yeah. And the therapist says, "Is there anybody there you know?" And he looked over and he said, "Doug," and he smiled.
Yeah,
it was weird.
I think we're all interconnected in each other's lives.
It was really weird
for many lifetimes.
You know what's crazy? A lot of the people. So my Friday night stream is new people have been coming in a lot since I started reading over on TikTok, which I didn't want to do, but I kind of had to. And a lot of them have been with me for the whole 4 years.
Right.
I am connected to them. They are connected to each other. It's this is just how we all found each other in this incarnation because of technology. I am very closely connected to so many of them.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of why I was drawn to YouTube. I didn't start YouTube to do all this. I started YouTube because I couldn't handle my abilities. I was coming out of addiction and I was very lonely. And I was just trying to connect. And then I realized this is a good platform for me to do so. And I've met so many of my soul family through it, just these people that I can't imagine my life without now, even though I've never met them in real life.
That's awesome.
It's the craziest thing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are tied together. It's really interesting. Yeah, it was a fascinating. It was weird. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced.
It was unexpected.
Yeah, it was the whole thing was weird. I mean, it was just. And then it was kind of also weird. I drive down this when I go to work. I have a real job, unfortunately. Day job.
That's what they
call it. And I go down
I
go down to Fair Oaks Boulevard, and you don't know the road, but it goes onto a really busy road called Sunrise. And I always have this anxiety because when you're merging, nobody wants to let you in. Because in California, everybody drives like shit out here. And then
I'm from New Jersey. I get it.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah, so, and they're, I always let people in. If you got your turn signal on, okay, I'll let you in. I don't care. I'm never in a hurry. So, and I always have anxiety. I have this weird anxiety. After I did that with the hypnotherapist, my anxiety it never happened again.
Gone.
It was real. I don't know why the anxiety went away. And before you start, he said if you do it, you have to fill out, not really paperwork, but you have to fill out some things that you want to work on. And I think, because I'm terrible claustrophobia.
Really?
And, and then, he says, if you have those stuff like that, let me know when you start.
It carries over.
Yeah. What they can do, he says, we can actually, because he works on, a drug and alcohol addiction, that kind of thing also. And he says you can, you don't really cure it, but he can. I guess I don't know what he does with it. You
They
guys,
can pinpoint where it started
yeah,
and take you through
you
it because
guys
I know,
probably
yeah,
know more about that stuff. But he says, just tell me what the root of it. You can find what the root of it is, and we can somehow, if not remove it, make it so it's make it so it's not
less,
as
yeah.
because I'll almost
Trauma.
get up and walk out of places if I'm like we have you have meetings and you're in a room with 10 people
Oh,
and
I totally get it because each
yeah,
person has like 5 to 10 dead. So for me, everywhere I go, it's
it's
not just the
everywhere.
people. I get it. I get so claustrophobic, and that's why I try to shut it down. But like trauma and tragedy and all that stuff, it imprints on our soul. And our soul is what brings us into an incarnation. No matter what incarnation we're in, we have the same soul. Our soul never changes. It might split a little bit, it gets broken a little bit, but it never changes. So we're always the same us spiritually. So trauma, tragedy, things like that, they carry over. So like if you were murdered in a past life, and somebody stabbed you, you might have this irrational fear of knives.
Mine
Or
is
like for me,
drowning.
really?
Water.
Water.
Yeah, big bodies of
Water.
water. Yep.
Yeah, so something happened to you guaranteed
Yep.
in a past life, probably multiple, right? They used to say that witches, one of the ways they would be able to tell, and they would just, drown them at birth, is if they had a birthmark in a specific spot under their left, like right here. I have it.
Oh shit.
So you also carry marks over from previous lives. So
Yeah.
scars, birthmarks, those types of things are from things that have happened to you in past lives. That you're and they're usually something that will affect you, right? So
Yep.
like
I've
for
got one there.
example,
It's
that
up.
scar has
Yeah.
something to do with something, right? And
Right.
then like you probably have a fear of whatever that is. So maybe you were on the Titanic and you got caught on the boat and were bleeding into the water and a shark got you. Like you just don't know
Right.
where these fears come from.
Yeah.
If there's nothing rational in the present or in your past in this life, it definitely came from a past life. And what they do is pinpoint that and they go back, they take you back through it as kind of a trauma, but then you're able to see that you've moved on from it. That's why these little kids come back and they remember, they'll say, oh, my
Oh yeah.
mommy, my other mommy, or the one kid in India would just freak out and go crazy because his family was poor. He didn't like want to be seen with them. He was like 3 years old and he's telling them, no, we've got to go to this place, the big city where like all the rich people hung out. And his father would go and he would be like, I want to go. And he would like throw the food that his mother would cook and he would tell her, you're not my mother and this and that. And somehow they made a connection. The one day he went with his father into this town and they went to this house. He was the like grandfather, male patriarch figure of this really wealthy family in India that had passed away,
Wow.
reincarnated into this kid, and he wasn't able to let it go. That kid never healed from it. He actually became a part of both families.
Yeah.
But normally what they can do is you meet the actual family and you heal it. Why always little kids for the most part? Because they're more connected to, if you're born too fast, if you reincarnate too quickly, that's what will happen.
You'll drag it
If,
over,
if
huh?
my kids, any kids you have, they choose us for a reason. We're the best for their soul to learn what it needs to learn. And what they'll do is I have a friend who I'm working with, or I was, she completely disappeared on me. I don't know what's happening, but she has a little boy following her and he's waiting to be born. But she and her husband are having these issues where, he's got some alcohol problems, so they don't want to have a baby right now. This kid has been following her around for like 15 years,
Oh
just
shit.
waiting to be born.
Wow.
She obviously doesn't know that because she's not sensitive that like I am where she can see him. But this kid, I told her it's not the issue is that I'm like, it's not your husband's. I'm like, so, the boy belongs to you and someone else, but he's attached to her,
Right.
right? That's a soulmate thing. So my oldest and my youngest are my soulmates. They're two of my soulmates. We have many soulmates. Soulmates are usually not romantic partners, as everyone likes to imagine and fantasize.
Right.
That's a twin flame, and those never work out. If your twin flame relationship works out, good for you, because your twin flame is the other part of you where you learn the most from. It's usually a very very toxic relationship, but we have these soulmates that some of them stay in spirit to watch over us and help us and guide us when they can, and some of them are born to teach us lessons and to learn from us. So my oldest and my youngest were with me basically my whole lives after they chose me. I don't know why the heck my youngest chose me. I mean, I was in the midst of addiction, but I guess that's why, because
Yeah.
I next month I have 6 years completely and totally
Woo!
Oh, good
clean
job.
and sober.
All
Yeah.
right.
And I only used for 6 years. So I'm about to have more time.
Yep.
I started when I was 30 and I went
Non-using.
big dog, right?
Right. Right.
So I'm about to have more time than I actually use. And for me, that's really cool. Like that for me, like gets rid of so much trauma of like, okay, I did this for 6 years. I'm 41. I'm almost 42. It's like a blip in the radar of life for me, right? But my son, I tell him all the time, I'm like, when you get old enough to understand, mommy will tell you how you saved my life. Because he did. And I think that's what he came for. That was what I needed.
Right.
So now I'm going to teach him as much as I can.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
amazing.
So cool.
That is awesome.
What? So did you? Have you? I'm going to ask you a personal question now.
That's okay.
Bring him on. Is he back there? Put him on the show.
Yeah, you want to come say hi?
Yeah, come. I want to see him.
He got his new phone case.
It's been a
Watch
year.
the fire.
Nice.
It's been a year.
Did you guys get to see him last time?
I think he came on last
Hello.
time.
Did he?
That's Doug and Matt.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hello.
Hi.
RJ, my soulmate, I was just talking about.
That's
Your
awesome.
heart's beating so fast.
Oh, look at you.
Nervous?
You're on TV.
He's like, yeah.
You're gonna be on TV.
I love you.
You're gonna be on
Go in your room, I'm
63
almost
podcast platforms. He looks just like you.
He did.
He looks like you.
He looks like, that's because you guys haven't seen his dad.
Oh,
So
really?
How's it
He's
dad?
almost 5 foot tall, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Oh,
My
really?
husband's 6'5", same. But that is my baby, like I was telling you.
Nice.
And when he was a little younger, because YouTube, you can watch it on TV, he thought we were famous.
Oh.
Yeah.
I totally went along with it. I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. No, my autograph.
I'm almost done. Go.
Yeah, we're about ready to wrap it up. So thank you.
You wanted to ask me a question. Please ask. He's in
Oh,
here
how many times have you been married?
once. I've been married, well, once before this one, so twice total. But I got married on my 18th birthday.
Oh, really?
And I had 2 kids by the time I was married a month. So like I was really young when I started my oldest is 25. I'm about to be 42.
I always forget you're 42.
Yeah.
I was thinking like 30.
Yeah, I had no idea how old you were either. So yeah. It's young energy though. Like people like us sensitives, open-minded people, they really do have younger energy than just a regular average person.
I'm sensitive
That's why
to
we're
people.
able to open ourselves up.
But
you definitely are.
Yeah, well,
Doug is too. You guys are empaths for sure.
In fact,
absolutely.
Where was it? So I was somewhere, and this person came up to me, and I could look in her eyes, and all I saw was sorrow. Even though she wasn't crying, she was just talking. I just like looked in her eyes, and I'm like, "There's something really sad about her," and I didn't push it or even get into that.
Yeah,
but
how could you? You know?
Yeah, I could feel that completely, and that's happened a few times.
You walk into a room where there's 100 people, everyone's partying and laughing, and there's one person crying in the bathroom. You're suddenly sad. Like, where is this coming from?
Yes.
You know? And it's because you're so sensitive to the energies around you. And that's good, but it's also bad because you'll be in a great mood and then you're picking up everyone else's shit.
And it changes.
And then, so it's important too to like really keep yourself in a high vibration, to try to keep yourself as happy as possible, remain out of toxic relationships as best as you can, and protect yourself from energetic vampires, people who just want to leech off your energy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Wild. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up, Gemma. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Get the book.
Thank you.
Get the books. Yep, we got to talk about the book.
Get the book.
You see that on
Yes,
there?
thank you. Gone Mysterious Disappearances Volume 4. It should be out in about 2 weeks from when we're filming this, but there's 3 other volumes. I have Campfire Stories Volumes 1, 2, and 3. Those, I don't know why they're not selling better, because they are encounters sent to me from the listeners. I don't think people realize that. They are listener encounters from you guys throughout the YouTube community, the TikTok community, that have sent me in your creepy stories. Those ones are usually in the woods, but not always. That's what those are. And yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Gemma Jade, TikTok, Gemma Jade YT. TikTok, I really only post the 1-minute readings for right now because I don't have enough followers to go live. But I'm going to be doing a lot more over there as soon as I get that 1,000 followers. I'm going to do mediumship readings. I'm going to call in your loved ones. We're going to do all types of stuff like that. I might do some divining with my crystal ball, which is a black obsidian. Guys, thank you so much. He just wants to say goodbye again.
Yeah,
bye,
bring it on.
Come on.
He's going to be on YouTube.
Bye, buddy.
Say bye. Bye.
Thanks for coming on.
I will see you guys whenever. Again, I'll let you know when the book comes out. And Matt, I'll definitely be in touch with you because I always.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. welcome comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Gemma, what is your emails, or how do we contact you to get a reading? How do people contact you?
Gemma Jade Paranormal at gmail.com.
She's amazing.
Do it.
Thank you.
We are on 63 podcast platforms, YouTube, Rumble. See us on Twitter and Instagram at Alien Pro Pod. Do you do Rumble, Gemma?
I am on Rumble. I'm just not active with it yet. I'm slowly uploading my content. So you can find me Gemma Jade YT on Rumble.
Awesome. Okay, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Gemma.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, buddy.
Bye, buddy.